management. Recording started, transcription started. So let's kick off the last module for today. Taxation management is the story of course of tax calculation. How to set up the system so that on each invoice and every single document we have, the correct tax percentages are set up. We will look at a couple of scenarios. We're first going to talk about the concepts, of course. And again, here we are. And again, we've got a, let me quickly do this. Where are we? We're again in the billing process because this is part of generating invoices, etc., etc. It's time to talk about billing again. We had it in the previous module as well. So we're talking about billing. What are we talking about? We're talking about the taxation settings. And actually, there are three concepts to take into consideration. The first one is the tax itself. So what percentage are we talking about? VAT, in the Netherlands, it's called BTW. And we have two levels. We've got a 9% for things like food and necessities like clothing, etc., etc. And then we've got a higher percentage. I'm not even sure what it is at the moment for luxury goods like cell phones, for computers and stuff like that, cars. So we have two levels. We also have a concept called a tax category, and a tax category is a grouping of plan categories. And we know that plan categories are used for tax configuration. So I'm grouping products in a plan category, and I can group plan categories into something called a tax category. Why do we have those two layers? Because it could mean that in one country that you are selling across multiple countries, like in your case, whereas in some countries, specific products are sold with a different tax category as in the other country. So you can group those accordingly and make it work as far as you want it. The next thing is the tax zone. So that is the location. Tax categories are bound to products, and tax zones are bound to, let's say, the customer accounts. So how do these work? Well, the key things are these two. Of course, we have the taxes, and what we do is we specify, okay, for this tax zone, for this country, let's say the Netherlands again, we have two types of taxes, low tax and high tax. And as I said before, we also have products. And how is the low tax defined? The low tax is defined with food, essential clothing, and stuff like that. So if I buy something in the Netherlands from the clothing or primary needs tax category, I'm charged 9%. We also have a tax category called luxury goods, or maybe we should call it anything else. And for that definition, we have for the tax category, we specify that the Netherlands for this tax category is the high tax. And if I buy something from the Netherlands, the system will know, okay, wait a second, you are in this tax zone. That means that for the tax category, anything else, we have to leverage you the high percentage. And that's all there is to it. That sounds like very easy. I hope it is a clear thing, but I'm going to explain it to you, hopefully a little bit, maybe better, maybe a little bit different when we're talking about the taxation workspace, and I'm going to do those demos. But before we continue to that demo and the workspace, What questions do you have on this?
Hello. Quick question. I know that I can apply for different products, different taxes, but can I apply different taxes for the same product, more than one tax?
For the same customer, you mean?
For the same service, because different services have different taxes, right? But
Yeah.
such as the example you said. But here in Brazil, we have, besides different taxes, we have for the same service different taxes too. So we have for let's say it's a service and not a product, because we have products and service, right? It's a service. If it's a service, we have the IRS tax, then we have the ISS tax, and then we have another one that I forgot right now. So we have three different taxes: one for the federal government, one for the state government, and another one for the. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yes, that is possible, and that is exactly one of the examples I wanna give you.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm going to build
it's
one
just
of
that
those.
Before in version 8, I believe, until 8, it was not possible. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah. It might depend on whether the customer is from a specific region or not, but there are a couple of things you can do about that that would work.
Okay.
I'm going to show you that in a second. What other questions are there? Otherwise, I'm going into that into the demonstration and the rest of the configuration process using Ana Paula, hopefully Ana Paula's solution of for the product setup. If no questions, let's move on. Let me put this that one in. So first of all, we have the workspace. Where are we handling taxes? Well, again, billing. So it's in the billing settings, and of course, it's a financial setting. And here we have the taxation option. So I'm going to skip all the screenshots. I'm going to go directly into my platform. I'm going to system settings. And now I'm really logged out. Let me re-log in. Go to billing again. Take settings. And here we have taxation. This is the thing that we're talking about. And you see there are a couple of options there. And BillSoft Easy Tax and Vertex are, let's say, taxation as a service providers. We will discuss that a little bit later on slide 19. But in short, it means that the system doesn't do tax calculation. We just say, okay, this is a customer from place A. We are in place B. This is a service. You do the math. And then we get an amount back of the taxes that we need to leverage, meaning that they will do all the complexity, et cetera, et cetera. Could be very, very useful if you have very complex tax rules. I'm not entirely sure if Vertex as well as Easy Tax support all countries. I really don't know. As far as I heard, Vertex is US only, but I think that Easy Tax, BillSoft Easy Tax, is working across the globe. So if it becomes very complex and you cannot manage it anymore, a subscription, because it is still a subscription based solution, but a subscription to one of those services might come in handy. I see those two because those are two tax plugins that have been installed on this platform. If you don't have them installed, you only see tax zones and tax categories, and you see the taxes option. And that's actually the two that I'm going to use and to demonstrate. And if you look at my next screenshot, you will see that only those two are there. So let me use that scenario. Here you see that there is nothing configured at this point. I can do individual things. I can manually add taxes here. I can manually add tax zones if needed. I can add tax zone assignment rules, and I can assign tax categories here. There's always one. That one is called all products. What I can also do is I can add a tax rule and go through a wizard. So in this case, it could be that I'm creating a taxation method. So I'm not using one of these tax calculation as a service providers, and I'm going to create a new tax. And I'm going to call it BTW, as our thing is called. That is basically VAT in the Netherlands. And let's do it as 9%. It's a level 1 tax, and it's calculated per item, and it's applied on the document date. And that's it. I'm going to talk about level 2 in a second, so I'm skipping it for now. And the rest I also skip for now. Next. And then what tax zone are we using? Well, at this point, I can use an existing tax zone because there are 3 only. Provider country, I'm in the same country and the same state with the provider. So in that case, the system, this is a little bit the I would almost say the US way of working. If I'm in the same state and country, this is what we do. If I'm in the same country, but not in the same state. So I, as a provider, am in Texas and my customer is in Washington. I'm in this tax zone. And of course, if I'm outside of the US, I'm in the world rest tax zone. So that is how you can use it. I could also create a new tax zone if I want to. And let's say I want to use the Netherlands. Let's search for NL. There we are. If I search for provinces in the system, there are no provinces or states defined. So that might be an issue that we need to solve, Ana Paula, later. And here we have requires account verification. Remember that status manual account verification required in from the training on Monday. This is where that one comes in. If I check this box, somebody needs to verify that this is the VAT number and that these are the details of this customer, and that's it. So I'm not checking it here. And in this case, I'm using the all products tax category. I click next, and I have my tax rule. So what does this do? This tax rule now does the following thing. Whatever I buy, all products, as a customer from the Netherlands, so if in my country it says Netherlands, I'm going to have to pay 9% taxes. That's the rule that I have. If I go to taxes, I see that the tax has been generated. If I go to tax zones and tax categories, I see that this rule is there. So that is how you can create those rules. So let's go to the taxes option and talk about those other items. So I can specify a tax ID, which is simply how to recognize it with a name on top of that. Then we have the tax name here. And then we have level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is we have an amount. And I always compare it to the way the US works. If I go into a store and I see a price, I know that there is an add-on for that specific product in taxes, which is the federal tax. Everybody needs to leverage it in the US. And then there might be also state taxes. Does that sound familiar, Ana Paula?
Yes.
So in that case, based on the amount, it still could be a level 1 tax. In the US, it's actually a level 2. What does a level 2 mean? We have that original amount and we added the level 1 tax on top of that. And that is the basis for the calculation of what we call the level 2 tax. That's a tricky one because you're now paying taxes on top of taxes that the government is already collecting. That's what level 2 does. Sounds weird? For me, it is weird because why would I want to pay a tax on top of a tax? I'm okay with paying a tax on top of the amount of the product I buy, but level 2 means I'm going to first calculate all the level 1 taxes on top of that product, and then as a result, we still have another tax that goes for that total amount that already includes some tax, and we do another tax calculation and add that to it as well. I don't like it, but there are countries where that happens. Then we have a calculation type per item or only on the document total. So this is also how it will show in the invoice. We have the line items there. And do you want the tax to be calculated per line item total and then add everything? Or do you first put everything without taxes on the scenario, you summarize it, and then you leverage taxes on top of that? There could even be a rounding difference in the two methods if you use the same amounts on the invoice. So this might be a legislation thing. And then there are countries where at the end of the period, the tax needs to be calculated. That's a little bit strange. And I don't understand how you would do that if you have prepaid. But this has to do with price changes along the way, where the tax is now charged on top of the higher amount. Or at the end of the month, the tax is different than at the beginning. I'm not sure how that works, but this is something we have added recently. I know how it works, but I don't see the repercussions yet on how this what result this has. And then we have extract tax amount from item amount or not. What does that mean? The price that I set in my product pricing, is that a price including taxes or excluding taxes? If I check the box, all prices are considered to be including taxes. So the total that I have is including taxes. That means you have to calculate back, in my case, 9%. So what I see as a total is 109%. That means that the net amount is less than what I see. So if I can sell without taxes, the system has to do the math. That's what we have here. So those are the settings for taxation. So how are we now setting up the scenario for Ana Paula? Well, let's go and first, and this is always where I have to search a little bit, states and provinces. The country code is NL, and we've got one province called Overijssel. Oh, sorry, I'm going to add one. The country is Netherlands, and I'm going to add Overijssel. That is where I live. We also have, for Netherlands, we have Gelderland. Let's make this GL. And let's add a third NL. FR, Friesland. Save. So now we have extra countries. So if I search for country NL, you see that there are 3 provinces, Friesland, Gelderland, and Overijssel. What I can now do is I can use this to set up an extra rule. I'm going to add an extra rule for taxes, and I'm going to create a new tax. And this is, let's say, the OV tax, Overijssel tax, which is, let's do 6%. And whether it's a level 1 or level 2 tax doesn't really matter. In this case, let's do a level 2. Still calculate per item. Next. For a tax zone where the country is the Netherlands, but we have a Friesland. This guy is in Friesland. And we create a new tax. No, sorry, we use the existing tax category. I was wrong here. This is where we select all products again. Next. Finish. So let's now create 2 customers. I'm going to add a new customer. And I put them in the default customer class. And this is the Dutch connection. Let's do Brink 2. Oh, yeah, that could be a nice one. Nope. Not sure if this is going to work. NL. And this guy, I'm going to put in Overijssel. 7432 AD. $31,653308009. Oh, sorry. 06. Next. Tax registration ID. Okay, let me quickly Google. Let's copy this one. There we go. Next. Oh, tax registration is ID. All right. Control C. Control V. Maybe I could have used the other one because there was a dot at the end. Next. I can ignore all this. Eric D with a generated password. Finish. We've got Dutch connection, and I want to do the same thing for a Greece connection. And we're going to put this one in Friesland. 1, 2, 3, 4 AD. 31. Oh, sorry. 31.6. And I need another of this. Next. Next. Generate, finish. So now we have two customers. One is just living in the Netherlands in a different province than I set up. Where is it? International taxation. Where I set it. Oh, I made a mess out of this. Let me verify this. Overijssel tax. That's weird. What's the rule say? Tax zones, tax categories. Friesland. Okay, yeah. So that's cool. Let me go to customers and let me first buy something from the Dutch connection. I'm going to place an order. Hopefully I have a product that has a price. And here.
Fingers crossed here.
Yep. Generate, next. So here we have $12 in total with a tax total of 108. And as far as I know, that is 9%. Am I correct?
Don't ask too much hard of a question. Do you want me to really want me to do this calculation by, don't do this with me.
9% times 12. That's 108. So yeah, that is the 9% only, right? So that's the first thing. So you see only one tax is leveraged, the generic one. So we are looking at this point at this one only. Now I'm going to do the other one, NLFR. So I'm going to take the other customer, Fries connection. I'm going to place the same order just to compare. BPS services for a year. Next, next, admin, generate. We have 72. Okay, so that is weird. So now it only takes the 6%. It does not take them both. I don't like that.
Yeah, it should, right?
Yeah, it should. So let me go back in and see if I can find out why it does this. Tax zone assignment.
Because it's a bad boy. It's a bad
Yeah,
boy. That is the
absolutely.
reason why.
Absolutely. What I can try, let me quickly do that. Let's go to taxes. Let me edit the tax and make this, no, not this one. I want to take that one and make it a level 2. Let's see if it is a level 2. Do that. Level 1. Let's try again. Let's also make this one per document, edit. Per document, making it easier. Less settings that can interfere. Orders, add new order, for service plan number 6. 1 year, next, next. Why does it only take 72 cents here? I'll have to look this up. I will try to figure this out and come back with an answer next training.
No problem.
This should have taken both taxes into account. Because that's the whole scenario, right? That you want to be able to leverage those both those taxes. I will come back to that next. Let me make a note of that.
No worries.
I'll figure it out. Tax.
Next meeting.
Yep, definitely.
We talk about this.
Yeah. So you saw me configure stuff already. So quickly going through the motions there, the tax configuration process. First, we have to do product categories and tax categories. Product category, services, resources are 2 product categories where we specify that in West Country for services, you take 5%, in East Country, 10%. For resources, both are 10%. So what does that mean? If we buy a product called shared hosting and we add disk space to it, where shared hosting is, of course, the service and disk space is an extra resource. In West Country, we have 5% of 100 is 5. Disk space is 50 with 10%, also 5. So I'm paying 10, whatever the currency is in West Country. If we do the same math in East Country, before taxes 100, we have a 10% there. So we charge 10 for that. We still charge 5 for disk space. So you mean that you see that in East Country for the same product in the same with the same pricing, a person pays more tax because of those product categories that have a different percentage. And this could be the reason, for instance, here, why you would have different tax categories. You've got a product category, services. That means that for West Country, you have to set the services amount in a separate tax category for 5% and the resources in a tax category for 10%. That is why you can group it. If you were only selling in East Country, you could group everything in one tax category and say it is 10%. And we have a tax rule. You saw me go through the wizard. So the first thing you define is a tax, a sales tax. Either you use an existing one or you create a new one there. Of course, we also want to specify which is the customer location. Is he in the Netherlands? Is he in the Netherlands as well as in Friesland? You can figure that. Afterwards, you specify, okay, this tax is for this specific tax category. So luxury goods, essential, life first, or primary essentials, right? And that brings me my tax rule. You saw me create it in the wizard. That's the easiest way of doing it. So first we register a tax rate, then we create a tax category, we create a tax zone, we configure the tax algorithm. In our case, I will show you where that one is, and we start creating tax rules. I created 2 exceptions in my case. 2 tax rules. I'm going to delete them for now. I will rebuild them. That means that I can also remove those taxes here. I want to start with a clean slate. And it also means that we now have 2 tax zones.
But you can remove that even if it's already applied?
That is the tax.
Wouldn't it be deactivate then instead of remove?
You can do that, or you cannot do that. The thing is that I want to delete these two, and you
Yeah.
see that I cannot do it
Yeah,
because
so
it is in use
because
by
it's
an
in
account.
use. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to remove this one from the zone. Here we are, tax zone ID, edit. I'm going to put this guy in, well, from one country within a provider, save, and go back and delete. And as you expect, as you would expect, I cannot delete the other one now because there is a special tax zone for the other account as well. Save. Let's verify that I did actually save this one. Yeah, provider country. So let's go to the settings again. Okay. Remove the special tax zones. There are no customers in there. Let's get rid of this one. Oh, wait, here, we still have these two rules. I need to delete these first. And then I can delete these two. So there we are. Now I've cleaned everything up. And then we have, depending on where you are on the globe, we have either something that is very convenient or that forces you to do a lot of work. Because we have what we would say, an algorithm to assign tax zones. If I don't put a customer in a specific tax zone, we have an algorithm that looks at where you are as a provider or as a seller, as well as where the customer is, and assigns a tax zone automatically. And there are actually three algorithms. Same country state, that's what the US uses. I can imagine that this would also be relevant for Mexico, because that's also a union. And I can even think of this being valid for Brazil, because this is the story where you are in the same country and in the same state, you do this. If you are in the same country and in a different state, you do that. And if you are outside of the country, there is a third item possible. If you take default, it means that every single tax rule you have to set up yourself. You have to define, if a customer is from here, this is the tax to leverage on these products. That's quite a complex thing. And we also have what we call the EU VAT algorithm. If I use this one, the system will create a tax zone for every European country. It will create a tax for that. It will create all the rules between those countries, etc., etc. From us as a union. So I'm going to keep it the same country and state, but those are the three algorithms that we have. If I would do default, I'm not going to mess with this for now. I'm going to create my own reseller and build it again in there with the default, and then test those tax weird things that we just encountered. But you can set whatever tax algorithm you want. So that's a key thing. Tax zone assignment rules. Where are you? And I can create special cases on top of that if needed. And that's what I tried, but for whatever reason, I did not succeed too well. Then we've got those external tax engines. As I said,
Just
we
a quick
have-
question.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead.
just a
Yeah.
quick question. I can assign by state and country, but not by city, right?
That's true. Yeah, and that
Okay.
is where
Brazil
go back.
is screwed.
That is where you can specify special cases. The problem is, if I do a special case,
I would have
only
to have
define
like
these two.
500 special cases for the 500 cities in Brazil, right?
Yeah, that let's be honest, that won't even work because I cannot specify the city. Now that I
Yeah.
come to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing you can do to, I would not say make it easier, but to make it doable, is that you manually create. And now that, and I realize that's a lot of work. That you manually create those tax zones of these individual cities and assign them manually in this first screen. I know that is hardly doable, but it would be the only way of getting where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, at least we have this option now. Before
Yeah.
we didn't have this one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. External tax engines, like I said, Easy Tax as well as Vertex. And Easy Tax at this moment only supports USA and Canada. The Vertex, so I was wrong in the first slide there. It's the other way around. Easy Tax only works in US and Canada. Vertex works in all regions. And the idea is, what do we give them? We give them the location of the buyer, location of the seller, the product or service type, and the purchase amount. We get a response back with the tax amount to billing. So if your scenario, like Ana Paula just mentioned, is very complex, it might be worth your while to look into that Vertex tax plugin. Because in that case, you don't have to do anything anymore. You just say, send everything to Vertex and you get the information back. So if it becomes too complex, Ana Paula, I would definitely at least look in what it would cost to implement a Vertex subscription.
Yeah. Just for you to know, it's just that I said 500. It's 5,500 cities. I just simplify it.
Okay, 5,500. I
Yeah.
would go for Vertex. So
Yeah.
it's available. Look into what the price is and look into how much complexity it will save you to manage if you go for that Vertex tax plugin.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what do? How do you apply taxes to the service plan fees? You simply specify through your taxation rules, you can add plan categories and resource categories to tax categories. I can create multiple tax categories in there if I want to. Let me quickly do that. I go here, I go to tax categories. Now we only have all products. I want something else. Let's say low, and I would say essentials. Let's call it essentials. And if I open it, I can see which plan categories are in there, and I can add new ones. Add selected. And the same thing for resources. Be aware that resources that are sold separately are not part of a plan category. So a resource also needs to be adjusted so that taxes are calculated on top of that. Like that. So now we have essentials.
So, sorry, but what do you mean by a resource sold separately? A resource needs to be in a plan to be sold, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But be aware that if I let's say this one comes with one license or one VPS, right?
Okay.
However, if I add more,
Oh, additional resource. Okay, got it.
yeah, additional resources are not charged because of the plan. The plan categories charge for these prices. Resource categories charge for these prices.
Got it.
Yeah. And since we have that new way of working where we say, hey, we've got a minimum amount that you have to put, we don't do included. So as we talked about on Monday, prices of the plan are 0, but we need to charge for the specific resources here. You have to make sure that those resources are actually somehow in a tax category. Otherwise, it won't work. That's a key thing. That's something that, especially when you have set everything up and you add a new product group where you create new plan categories and you create new resource categories, it's often forgotten that those plan and resource categories still have to be added to the appropriate tax categories. If I look at my tax categories here, I've got 2 now. All products, what does it contain? 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I look at the low, it contains 37, 38, and 53. However, so I have 7 plan categories added to my taxes. Guess what? I've got 10. So I'm missing taxes on at least 2 plan categories because they have never been added to the all products or to another group. The other products is not in a tax category. Here you see. So maybe I should fix this. This one goes to all products, save. Which other one do I not have? I think Adobe Cloud or something like that. Here we are. This one is also not taxed. Be aware that you check this thoroughly. Otherwise, you're missing out on paying taxes or charging taxes, and it could cause a problem. And we all know that Adobe is an essential tool to have. Something like that, right? So
yeah,
now
right.
we fixed that. Now we fixed it. But that's a key thing. Make sure that you verify, because the moment I create a new plan category, most people fill out this one, fill out that one, and forget about that. So make sure you add it. The same thing when we're talking about resources. We have our resource categories. And if I add a new one, most people concern themselves about this one and that one, maybe something how it's shown in the marketplace, but most of them forget to assign it to a tax category. Verify if that is all done. That's all there is to talk about when it comes to taxes. I will try to figure out what is happening and why I don't get my result as I expected it with the double taxing. What questions?
Looking forward about it.
Yeah.
For this one.
Perfect, perfect. What more questions do you have? If not, I want to thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on, what is it, Friday, again, same time, same place.
Okie dokie. See you on Friday.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Eric.